There are four elements that make up an experiment, and it's the hypothesis, the experiment, the observation and evaluation, and then the conclusion. So let's run through those four items in a bit more detail. Your hypothesis is your idea or proposed explanation for how you could achieve a particular result and why that result may or may not be achievable. You may express your hypothesis in a single statement or in several statements that set out what you plan to do and why. So you'd expect what your result you aim to achieve, how and why you think you can achieve it, informed by your background research. So you expect to see your evidence that shows how your background research helped you develop your hypothesis. So generally for an hypothesis, we would put a statement of fact that we hope to achieve, and we would try to quantify that where possible. So we hope to do something and achieve X result. So the next part is, what is an experiment? An experiment is a scientific procedure that you undertake to test your hypothesis, observe what happened, and compare this to what you expect. You may also compare your results to those from previous experiments. So you'd expect to be able to explain how you conduct or plan to conduct your experiment. For example, you might describe the parameters you vary, those you hold constant, and those you observe or measure. So what you observe and evaluate in your experiment may support your hypothesis, or it may not. That is, you may get the result you expect, or you may get a different result. Either way, your R&D activities may still be eligible for the R&D tax incentive. So this section is all about the process. What was the procedure that you undertook to undertake the experiment? What was the start, what was the beginning, and what was the end, and what were things that you tested for? The third part is observation and evaluation. Let's expand on that one in a bit more detail. Observation is where you observe, measure, and record information and results that relate to your experiment. Such information can be qualitative, as in descriptive, or quantitative, using numerical data. Evaluation is where you assess and analyze the results of your experiment. You need to consider what the results of your experiment mean. So in this section, we would evaluate, or we would look at the measurement and relate that back to the hypothesis. So you wanted to achieve 95% and you got an 85%. So relate all your experiment or your results back to the hypothesis. And the last part is the conclusion. So let's look at what the definition of conclusion is. The final part of the systematic progression of work is to draw logical conclusions about your hypothesis. When you test your hypothesis through an experiment, your results may support your theory about how to achieve your desired outcome, or they may not. So in the conclusion, I would look at the results and then compare that to the hypothesis and say, so what? So what does that mean? Did we achieve what we set out to do, or did we not achieve it? And then this is what we're going to do to improve that, or reinform the hypothesis or change the experimental procedure. So I hope that helps in understanding a bit more about what is and isn't an experiment.